loose tapes. I will show you the symbols, the charms, their names, what they are used for, and well, I will not delve too much on the information of each symbol. In the future, I will make a video for each symbol, a sort of advanced classes for Icelandic roots tapes. So today, I'm going to give you just an introduction to the symbols, a sort of Icelandic roots tapes for beginners. I hope you enjoy it, and well, let's get started. I forgot to tell you, please turn on the subtitles. There will be a lot of strange terms in this video. Alright, let's start with one of the most famous runescapes, the Algisjalmur. This is one of those symbols I would like to make a video just about it, because there is a lot we can tell. But this is a little introduction to the symbols, so let's keep it simple. This one is often translated to Helm of All. Its basic form was that 4 or 8-fold equal armed cross with branches at its terminus. The Algisjalmur is mentioned in the saga of Sigurd, when Sigurd slays the great serpent Hogni in order to win the treasure hoard of the Niflungs. One of the objects of power he gets is the Algisjalmur. It's something ethereal, not a helmet in its usual sense, but something that surrounds the wearer with a tremendous power to terrify and subdue one's enemies. The power is concentrated between the eyes, and it is often associated with the power of serpents to paralyze their prey, not a concept exclusively from Northern Europe, but an ancient Indo-European concept. So basically, this is also used as a symbol of protection, and after Christianity was introduced in Iceland, this magical sign was also named Solomon's insignia. Vigdísir, signpost. I want to begin this video the same way as the previous one, starting with one of the most famous Icelandic runescapes, and just like Algisjalmur, in the future I shall make a video only about this runescape. Anyway, the Vigdísir was carried so a person would never lose his way in storms and bad weather, even if the way was not known. Many people nowadays use this symbol as a sort of compass, to not lose their way in the great path of life, so it gained a whole new meaning in our modern age. However, it is possible that its true purpose was only to guide people to safety during long voyages, especially into unknown places. We know that Scandinavians during medieval times were great explorers and became experts in seafaring, and obviously there was a need to have some special spiritual assurance that people would reach the end of the journey safe and sound. However, this symbol is only found in modern Icelandic collections of spells. There are no evidences that this symbol was known or used during the Viking Age or earlier. It's possible that it was known during these historical times, but it's also possible that it was imported or invented after such historical periods. It might even have a great Christian influence. So stating that the Vigdísir is exclusively a Viking symbol is a common mistake. So any information about this symbol that goes beyond what I just explained, you can be certain people are just making stuff up. However, there's a lot to tell about this symbol if we focus on its meaning in our modern perspectives. You will find throughout the internet many variations of this symbol, such as these examples. The one I could find closer to the one we see recorded in Collection of Spells is this one. Even so, I've made a few alterations. See if you can spot them. Not much difference, cutting here and there. However, on the internet, everyone seems to forget this little dot here. I had to place it. It might seem of no importance, but on the other hand, it might make all the difference. The sigil of King Solomon, son of David. Now, I must say there is a problem with this one. You will find two sigils with the exact same symbols and with the exact same inscriptions, but one without the circles and the other, as you can see in here. The one without the circles seems to be an older version, and this is what it was used for, against the hate and poison of adversaries and enemies. The person who carries this sigil will never be harmed by the temptations of the fiend, which means the devil, and no enemy of the person will come forth against the person in any way. The person will also never be betrayed in either food or drink, which means that the wearer of this sigil will be safe from poison in either food or drink. Nor will the person be betrayed by any false things, which means that the person is protected against magic in general. And as you can see here, and I don't think there is a need to point this out because it's quite obvious, but well, this sigil is greatly influenced by Christianity. I suspect that it is a whole new symbol for an already existing one.
The magical sign you see in here is the famous Vegvisio, and if this sign is carried, one will never lose one's way in storms or bad weather, even when the way is not known. Throughout the internet, you will find many versions of the Vegvisio, but none like the one I'm giving you. I've personally reworked this sign to fit into the real Vegvisio presented to us on the standard webinars. However, it's important to take notice that the Vegvisio belongs to the category of Alvisialma staves, which are magical signs deriving from the basic design of an Alvisialbo, or Helm of Thoth. There are many variations of the Alvisialbo, and it's a magical sign quoted in the poem Falknismon. In this poem, the symbol will bring victory to its possessor. And in the same poem, this symbol belongs to the treasure of Sirigudu, from which it is deduced that it would be engraved on an helmet. At the same time, this description of a magical object in Fafnir's head is related to a European tradition that dates back to the Greeks and survived until the end of the Middle Ages. From a gem-like stone, the dragons possessed on their heads, snake stone or fleketite, used for healing purposes. In some Islamic sagas, the symbol is also described as giving protection in battles. Al-Isyalmur is translated as the helm of Thoth, or Ophelia, due to its shape in the greenhouse, a circle formed of 8 arms in the form of tridents resembling the ship ruler of Norse. The problem is that this type of nautical instrument was only known in Scandinavia by the 13th century. The Vikings used a transverse cord as a ruler. And because Helgir was a sea-related deity, perhaps Nordic modern scholars have fused with his folklore the trident.
This one is called Uni, and it seems to be a combination of the most basic and simplified forms of the Alvisialbo, as shown previously and right here again. It is said to be used so a woman might love a man. However, the most basic forms of the Alvisialbo of a 4 equal armed cross is only mentioned as to win a girl's love. It's used while fasting, and the symbol is drawn with one's spiegel in the palm of the hand when the person greets the girl whom he desires to have, and it should be the right hand. This one is called Röthing Gauldor, simply to put fear on an enemy. If you want your enemy to be afraid of you when he sees you, then carve these staves on a piece of shrub oak and wear it in the middle of your chest, and make sure that you see your enemy before your enemy sees you. It is interesting to notice this detail of carving the symbol on oak. Trees have always been considered to be magical in nature or having magical properties, and the oak in Norse witchcraft is associated with the power of Thursrum or Thurisas, and obviously with the god Thor. And in here, it seems to act as a terrifying photopeic talisman, or in other words, to ward off harm or evil influences. This one looks like someone was learning how to write. These rune staves are to play a sick joke on someone so the person can't hold food down all day. Carving these staves on cheese or fish and have the one eat it whom you wish to make a sport of, and whatever the person eats, that day will be of no use to the person. These 16 staves seem to be all highly stylized runic symbols arranged into rows of 8. Their full meaning has yet to be decoded, maybe because they also seem a mixture of Celtic alphabet, which wouldn't be surprising since the Norwegian settlers took their Celtic slaves into Iceland, and there was probably a mixture between the two traditional witchcraft realities. Well, this is just great. Speaking of learning how to write, learning how to make rune staves probably goes through this simple geometrical process. Anyway, this one is a tricky one, and it's to hinder a person from coming to your house. If you wish that someone in particular would not come to your house, property, or an area you own, carve this stave on rowan wood when the sun is at its zenith, and walk 3 times with the sun and 3 times on the contrary direction of the sun around the area, while holding onto the rowan stick on which the stave was carved and onto some sharp spin-torn brass thistle, and then put both of them up over the thorn in the middle. Again, the magical properties of the tree. Rowan wood is thought to have a life-giving power and to be able to control other worldly things. It is also used in a contrary sense as a bringer of death. The use here is to protect the house from evil entities or to terrify those who would come uninvited. The pistol is a verbal correspondence to the fairy rule, very much connected with bringer of life. So in a way, the combination of the herb and the rowan wood is to create or imbue power by mixing opposite polarities. Who knows? These things are never clear. 3. To kill another's livestock. One should write these staves on a leaf and cast it into the person's horse's hoofprint. Then some of his livestock will die. Surprisingly, this one is the least cruel rune stave around. At least the person is not trying to kill the other in a gruesome and terrible way, but it's killing innocent beings. In Iceland, livestock was a source of wealth for farmers, that which gave them sustenance and money. So losing livestock really was a blow to the stomach, leading people to despair and poverty. Tjörfastapur, to use against thieves. This kind of rune staves are the ones you will find the most. To find a thief, to use against a thief, to discover a thief. These are just a few examples, and it's understandable the great amount of rune staves against thieves. These rune staves probably appeared when Iceland went through a troublesome economic period when they ceased to trade with mainland Europe, and probably at the beginning of the 12th century, a time of civil strife. Old patterns of building, exacting of blood vengeance, and the like began to emerge again. There was a great economical crisis, and people would start to steal from each other, and, well, with the previous rune stave to kill livestock and people's wealth, more reasons to steal. Well, this one can be literally called "Ostile Hellerigi," to call on hunger, or to end strife. Yes, as we have seen, there were troublesome periods in Iceland. In order to calm all hunger, make this stave on your forehead, with the index finger of your left hand and say, "It is the helm of hope which I bear between my eyes. Let the hunger melt, let the strife stop. May every man rejoice in me as Mary rejoiced in a blessed Son when she found him on the Victory Rock. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit." I picked this one on purpose so you can understand what I've spoken in the previous video about the historical background of the rune staves, the Christian influence not only on the symbols, but also on the invocations made when calling upon the power of the symbols. By the end of this very Christian invocation, you should also read thus: "Ulve Holy, Healy, everything may your will do Lord. May God himself with mastery send love between us." This threefold Odin invocation includes the name of Odin beside Il, the evil one, which may have been an old name for Odin since he was called Vulverher, evil worker, and was also called the father of all evil. And unlike you might think that it was associated with evil due to Christianity, this association with evil was made during pagan times, because Odin in his essence wasn't a good god, nor a god of wisdom and the All-Father, but a god of war and death. Now let's talk about rune staves much older than the ones presented previously, with less Christian influences and much more geometrical and highly complex. Galdrahol, or Hall of magical incantations, which was carved on the skin of a waterway, which is a bird. It's unclear the use of this runestave, probably protection or concealment of something. Galadan Polski. It was used to ruin ships. In Scandinavian societies, ships were not only means of transportation but also for trading goods. At a certain point, Scandinavian societies highly depended upon naval trading routes. The soils in Scandinavia are hard to cultivate, but surprisingly the majority of Scandinavians were farmers. But during the Viking Age they became seafarers and explorers, coming in contact with so many different cultures and bringing back home all manner of goods. The Norse became traders and their lives depended on buying and selling goods rather than cultivating the soils or herding cattle. So staves to ruin ships had exactly the same purpose as the ones to kill cattle. The objective was to hit hard on another's property and source of wealth. Which leads to the runestave, or let's call them Galdarstati or Galdarmindi. These are the proper terms for runestaves, and this one is called Kalpaloki. You will most likely find it in this shape, or like this, or even like this. It's a runestave to prosper in trade and business. One should cut the sign on a stave of beechwood and wear it in the middle of one's breast for success and victory at buying and selling. The name of this stave, Kapaloki, consists of the word for buying or making business deals, which is Kapa, and Loki, derived from Loka, to lock, shut, and so it literally means deal closer. Interestingly enough, this might indicate the origins of the god Loki, not a god of trickery and mischief, but a god whose chief function was the role of closing or concluding the cycle of existence. And coming to an end with this Runslusafir, wet signs. This one simply states, carve the upper sign on your whetstone, the other one below. It isn't clear if you should carve the upper sign on one side of the whetstone and the other sign on the other side of the whetstone. But maybe that doesn't make much sense, and what it simply means is that you should carve both the signs together, but you should start first by carving the upper sign and then the other one. Then, after the carving of the staves, lay a bit of grass over it and then wet it or use it under the sun and don't look at the edge. Well, as you know, a whetstone is a sharpening stone and are used to sharpen the edges of steel tools and implements through grinding and pruning. And it was obviously an important object to have, not just for warriors to sharpen their weapons, but also for craftsmen to sharpen their tools. I have one such object in my house. It belonged to my great-grandfather. He was a craftsman and he always carried his whetstone with him. It's not just any stone, it's a proper stone only suitable to sharpen steel. People wouldn't just grab any stone they would find and work with it. It would take time and knowledge to find a proper stone for this job. One stone that would endure, but at the same time sharpen tools and weapons without damaging them. Just like my great-grandfather, I'm sure people would carry these sharpening stones with them all the time. It would be something very personal, which would gain a certain amount of importance. So it's only natural that people would give these stones a certain spiritual connection, because without them, warriors couldn't fight, nor craftsmen could make their creations. Against all kinds of suffering and danger. Any person, and it's quite specific that can be both genders, carries these staves and no pain may harm the person, and no sword nor any of the person's enemies, and no worm in drink or food will harm the person. It's quite interesting to notice this aspect that no worm will harm the person. Ancient Germanic peoples believed that diseases were sometimes caused by tiny, invisible worms, more akin to serpents actually, that would be in the food and drink. Here it is implied that such wood staves prevented these invisible snakes to enter the person's body. These staves are 16 in number, plus at the end a solar cross to seal the deal. In here we have an expression of the continuing potency of the nervous system of the younger football. To cause fear, add the following staves on your person and your enemies will be frightened. These 11 staves also contain several runic forms found in the next spell that I'm about to show you. For protection against all kinds of evil. If one wishes to avoid anything bad, have these staves on your person. Then no one may harm you. Not a sword, no torment, no worm, nor poison either in food or drink. This row of 24 staves contains many recognizable rune staves. Here we have the number of the Elder Futhark, and also a mixture between Norse runes, stylized runes, and Anglo-Saxon runes. Logustafir, luck staves. Whoever carries these signs with him will meet with no bad luck, neither on sea nor land. Luck to our Scandinavian ancestors wasn't the same thing as it is for us. The Emingia, which is happiness, good fortune, and luck. This Emingia, or luck, was a sort of force that could be pulled to ourselves and help us in life. A force people could influence coming their way and into their lives by a variety of actions and choices that led the Emingia to choose a person. It's a sort of personal entity, part of the self, but can be worked in certain circumstances. When a person dies, for instance, the person's Emingia is often reincarnated in one of his or her descendants, particularly if the child is given the name of the original owner of the Emingia. The Emingia can also be lent to others during life to assist them in particularly troublesome times when luck is needed. Speaking of luck, getting lucky was also a major concern to our Scandinavian ancestors. Alright, that was a poor joke, but let's take a look at this rune stave. Quite tricky, so pay attention. Its purpose is to bewitch a woman and win her love. If you want to bewilder a woman so that she finds her way to no one except you, make a hole in the floor where she goes over it and put 18 spirit blood, Jokon Diablo, and carve a ring on the outside of it and her name and these staves. Volturs, Mother in inverted threefold, Love, Now, Homla, and Gapalur, and read this conjuration. I look at you and you feel love and affection for me with all your heart. You can't sit anywhere nor stand to be anywhere unless you love me. This I ask of Odin and of all those who know how to read women runes. That you can neither endure nor thrive unless you love me with all your heart. Thus it will be like you are burning in your bones, and even worse in your fleshly parts. It will be alluded to you to be unmarried unless you love me. You shall freeze in your feet and never get honor or happiness. You'll sit as if burning, your air falling out. May your clothes be ripped up, unless you want to have you easy walk. Alright, this sickening obsession sounds much more like a curse rather than as in flatulence. Write these staves on white cloakskin with your blood. Rouse your blood from your eye and say this incantation. I carve you 8 holes, 9 now, 13 holes, which are to afflict your belly with great shitting and shooting pains. And all these may afflict your belly with great farting. May your posts split asunder, may your guts burst, may your farting never stop, neither day nor night. May you become weak as the fiend Loki, who was snared by all the gods. In your mightiest name, Lord God, Spirit, Creator, Hudan, Thor, Savior, Rera, Roya, Opar, Satan, Beelzebub, Helper, Mighty God, protect with your followers, Putheus, Mors, Nocte, Vicarius. No, this is not a joke, this is a real incantation. It's interesting to see that the incantation mentions a number of old Germanic gods, such as Odin, or types of magical spells that are designed to be worn or carried by a person for a certain amount of time in order to achieve their effect. The creation of the talisman involved a variety of aspects, from the selection of the tools created, the material for scribing on, to the part of the body where the talisman is to be worn or carried. Quite often, a prayer was to be said aloud and then carried as a talisman, to imbue it with power, or to awaken that power or the effect. Incantations were very important in the creation of talismans. Many of the magical operations are accompanied by the speaking of certain words, and in some cases, an incantation or a prayer is the only means by which the aim of the talisman is accomplished.